Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Debbie and I am Debbie B. Got a bit of a different setup tonight because I got the house to myself and it's dark because I just got home from work. But if I don't do it now, it's going to be like a week until I can do this video because of how busy I am at work. So my hair's been in a bun all day after washing it, so it's a bit all over the place, but yay. But yes, so I've got another book. Today's book is The Doorstep Girls by Val Wood. This was a wonderful book. It was a lovely book. It was heartwarming. It made me cry. It was first published in 2002 and it's just lovely. It's got such a nice message at the heart of it, and it is, let's see how many pages it is. It's 537 pages. So let's just get that blurb over and done with and then I'll talk about it. Ruby and Grace have grown up in the poorest slums of Hull. Friends since early childhood, they have supported each other in bad times and good. But their families are bound together by more than friendship, and secrets from the past threaten to make their lives even more difficult. The local cotton mill has provided work for Ruby and Grace since they were 9 years old. And now, years later, both girls find themselves the object of attention from the mill owner's sons. As times grow harder and money even scarcer, Grace becomes involved in campaigns against poverty and injustice, while Ruby is tempted into prostitution. The two girls are searching for something that could take them far away, but what price will they pay to find it? That probably doesn't sound heartwarming. It probably sounds really depressing, but at the heart of it, it's the friendship between Ruby and Grace that gets you through, even when they become separated, as kind of their lives take on going like different directions. It's like they literally start off like this, and then there comes a fork where Ruby goes one way and Grace goes the other, but they're still tied together by their homes and their friendship. No matter what, they will always be there for each other, and that's what's really, really nice about this book, that it is essentially a book about friendship and family, and knowing where you came from and not forgetting about it, which both of them need to remember it for different reasons. When Ruby is let go from the mill and she realises that she's not earning enough money anymore, and then a friend comes to her and says, I'm already in this business. This guy is already whoring out his mother basically for money, and they've got an agreement, and he's basically a pimp and he wants to get more women on board. And Ruby is there thinking, well, I've never done it before, you know, I'm a virgin, how's this going to work? And there Jamie is, that's Jamie who's the pimp essentially, is there saying, well, as a virgin actually I can get more money for you because men like it when women are pure. It's horrible, but it's a very much a real thing for Ruby to consider, because, you know, they're barely eating, they're barely surviving, they're in the slums of the slums in Hull, and in the, I always get the centuries mixed up. I'm just that kind of person, just like, if it's the 19th century, it should be the 1900s, but that's wrong, it's the 1800s that this book is set in. And yeah, it's kind of like that how the other half live type thing. They're looking at people with grand houses who are able to eat on a regular basis, and then these guys are scrambling to get food. Grace's mother, her mum's addicted to a drug. It was originally prescribed as kind of a painkiller, but it was just so easy to get addicted to it, and that's where Grace's mum goes with it. Bessie, she just completely addicted to this drug, and it's completely her downfall in the end. But because her mother basically needs it to survive at this point, because the withdrawal would kill her, both Ruby and Grace are using the money they're earning and putting it towards their families. And in Grace's case, she's just like, I need to earn this money to put food on the table, but also to make sure that my mum has this drug, because at this point it would kill her to come off it. That got very dark very quickly, didn't it? But both of them have got things to stand up for, and they both got things that they've got their goals. Like, they kind of know what they need to do. It talks about the two brothers who are the mill owner's sons that Newmarch is. So there's Mr. Newmarch Senior, and then there's the Newmarch brothers, and Martin sees Grace in a different way when he sees her just talking about her life in the slums, in like this area where people stand in soapboxes and kind of get their message out there. Grace is asked in the middle of this square kind of about her life and how long she's been working for, and that's when Grace realises that she has a voice, and Martin wants to listen to that voice, which is quite nice. And then the other brother, Edward Newmarch, has, in the best way to describe it, he has an attraction to Ruby, and as was the day, he is kind of betrothed to another who doesn't know how relationships work. But yeah, the woman that Edward is promised to, May, she's obviously never been told what a relationship entails, and the idea of having sex with her husband is completely abhorrent to her. She's there going, well, why would I do that to myself and to you? And she just, it's also the fact that she doesn't know what it is. She's been very sheltered, May has, and you realise there's actually a conversation towards the end of the book when they're just like, wow, May's mother never told her anything about what married life was going to be like. And so you just see May as this very innocent woman, and so when Edward goes off and he finds Ruby, which brings us back to the Jamie storyline with the whole prostitution thing, because when Ruby goes to Jamie and said, I'm considering kind of going into this kind of work because I realise that, you know, this is a genuine option for me and I feel like I'll be taken care of because she's friends with Jamie. And she knows that as long as he's getting her work, it's kind of like having an agent in the sense that his goal is to find her work so that he can take a cut of the money. So that's how it works with his mother, and that's how it's going to work for Ruby. But then on the night that Ruby finally decides to go for it, it is Edward Newmarch. When she goes into the room, she looks up and it's Edward Newmarch. It's one of the brothers that's kind of in charge of the factory that she's just been fired from. She's had her hours reduced. It's Grace that's essentially fired from the factory. I don't know what's going on with this camera at the moment. It keeps overheating. Might have to replace it at some point. When Ruby gets set up for her first client with Jamie, and she's taken into a pub with a room upstairs, and then Edward walks into the room and he's just like, oh, that's the girl from the factory that I've kind of been infatuated with for a while. And nothing happens at that first meeting, but Edward organises with Ruby to essentially have a relationship with her that cuts Jamie out of the equation, so that Jamie will never get a cut of subsequent meetings between the two of them, even though he introduced them in a way. And through that storyline you realise how cutthroat Jamie actually is. He starts off as kind of a friend to the girls, and then you start to realise that he's very controlling and he wants his cut of the money. You know, this is a business for him at the end of the day. And now that his mother is thinking about settling down with someone, he's losing his only income. And so he starts to prey upon Ruby and Grace's mother, who's addicted to this drug. And so he messes Bessie up by giving her the raw stuff. Well, he says it's the raw stuff. It's obviously mixed with something else, and makes her even more dependent on it. But even though Bess, after that first incident where she realises that she's gotten some really horrible stuff that could kill her worse, that could hurt her more. There's a lot that happens. There's so much stuff that happens in this book, and through it you see both Ruby and Grace find their voices in different ways. Ruby kind of stands up to Jamie. Well, in a way she's ignoring him as well as standing up to him, because she gives him his cut of that first meeting with Edward, but then Edward provides a life for Ruby that she never would have had, even with the percentage deal with Jamie. Under Jamie, she would have been a prostitute for lots of men, whereas with Edward, she has almost a relationship with him because he's completely infatuated with her and is getting something from Ruby that he's never going to get from his wife. There's a point when Ruby tries to work out if she loves Edward, if Edward loves her, And I think it's more a case of Edward falls in lust rather than in love, and he gets confused by that. It comes to a point when Edward just basically wants to run away with Ruby, and Ruby has to figure out whether she wants to run away with him or whether Hull is the place that she needs to stay. And then in the case of Grace, after she has her moment in the square where she stands up and she does a bit of talking kind of about her life, about her working since she was 9 years old, and how she is kind of the breadwinner for the family essentially as a young teenager. I mean, in the book when you meet them, I think they're about 16, 17, they're basically of age by that point, but at the same time, they're also at a point where their work is dwindling. The cotton mill essentially is going under in a way. They say that there's like not enough demand for what they're doing, but they're cutting the hours on the older people who need more money to live, and they're giving more money to kind of the younger ones who are small enough to kind of get like under the machines and things. So yeah, you know, it's the 1800s, there's no health and safety here, and there's no kind of limit as to how young you can start working, really. And Grace, in that, starts standing up for women's rights and workers' rights, and she meets some well-to-do ladies who want to hear her voice, and they're just like, we want to take you on kind of a tour of Yorkshire, essentially. Yeah, so through it, you're basically just finding these two girls find their voices in different ways. You see Ruby finding herself, you know, there's the line on the back of the book where it says that she's tempted onto prostitution after one night, and realising that that's not exactly the life for her. She ends up just being a mistress for this one man who adores her, has basically fallen in lust with her, and he feeds her, he gives her a house to live in, and he pays her essentially for being the mistress, and through that she gives money to her family, so, you know, she feels looked after by Edward. And even though she doesn't see her family as much as she wants to, when Edward is working or away, she goes home and tries to look after people. Yeah, it's essentially the tale of their friendship and them finding their voices, so it's a bit of a coming of age story in that sense. But yes, so if you kind of like a bit of history, you'll enjoy it. There is romance in the book, because you're looking at the relationship between Ruby and Edward, and then you're also looking at this spark that's happening between Grace and Martin, and you're there thinking there's something special here, because Martin obviously has affection for Grace, but he never acts on it the way that Edward does with Ruby. But yeah, it's just a really lovely, heartwarming book, which really makes you think about your roots. Yeah, it kind of reminds you where you came from. And both of them have to ask the question of themselves of, it's a case of them remembering where they've come from and accepting that, you know, they can move on from where they are. It's just the fact that both of them are asking questions of themselves, and they've got other people asking questions of them and saying, like, where do you want to go from here? And they both need to make that decision for themselves and figure out, do they want to leave or do they want to stay? And they can only answer that for themselves. Nobody else can tell them what to do. So between friends and family having their opinion, at the end of the day, it's what do they need to do for themselves. And so it feels really empowering on that part when you realise that even in the slummest of the slums where they don't have any food, and as teenagers they are the breadwinners of their families, and they're not earning that much, and you know, they're trying to kind of find their place in the world. And yeah, it's empowering, it's friendship, it's family, and it's home. That's what this book is. All those things. But yeah, so if you like the sound of that, that's The Doorstep Girls by Val Wood. Can two friends find hope in hard times? Yeah, it was a beautiful book, and I definitely recommend it just to anybody. If it sounds like your cup of tea, let me know. If you've read it before, let me know what you thought about it. I think initially when I started reading, I started thinking, oh, is this going to be a bit of a slow burner? Is this going to be a bit slow paced to begin with? But actually, it wasn't as slow paced as I thought it was. And there came a point when I was just like, I need to know what happens next. It's a bit of a page turner in that sense. But yeah, just a lovely book. The Doorstep Girls by Val Wood. So thank you so much for watching. There's more books happening. I'm listening to an audio book at the moment called The Couple Next Door, which I'm on about chapter 10. I'm about 2 hours into an 8-hour audiobook. If I was reading it, it would be a page turner, because at the end of every chapter I'm just like, I need to know what happens next, I need to know what happens next. Because I was listening to it while I was getting ready for work this morning, and I just could not put it down. I was there listening with my iPad going, I need to know. And I was recommended it by a girl at work, and yeah, I was telling her at work today, I was just like, oh, chapter 10, I just got to this bit, and she was just like, oh yeah. I was just like, it's in the title, The Couple Next Door. Anyway, so that'll be a fun one to talk about once I get to the end of that. But yeah, so thank you so much for watching my Vlogmas. I'm still going, but yeah, I'll talk to you later. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already. I have seen some newbies subscribe and join the family, so thank you so much for the people who are watching. I hope it comes across how much I love reading, because I really do. I can't wait to have my own place and have like a proper like library style office type room, because I'll admit I don't have as many books as I once did, but I've essentially got a library at the top of one of my wardrobes of books that I've read and cannot get rid of. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video for Vlogmas. I'm now going to speed watch last week's Strictly and this week's Strictly, because today is Saturday when I'm filming this. My lunch dinner today was at 4:30, and I'm starting to get a bit peckish again, and it is 9:30. I finish work at 8:30 tonight, and just tried to work out if I'm hungry. Thank you. I'll see you tomorrow. Mwah. I love you all. Bye. Don't I sound so sexy with my low voice because I've got a cold. At least I'm not coughing up my lungs at the moment. See ya.